The Olympics just ended on Sunday. Basketball finals featured France and the U.S., both men's and women's. Both games were great games. The women's came down to literally the final shot, and 6 inches would have tied it up in terms of like where I can't remember her name. Williams, was
Gabby Williams on France.
had her foot on the 3-point line. But while the Olympics is, for many people, an opportunity to see some of the best athletes around the world, while it's an opportunity to see people who have basically dedicated their entire lives to athletic excellence, many of whom end up like, sort of broken in many ways afterwards, both like physically and, financially. The top athletes, like the tippity top, I'm not talking about skill, but in terms of like fame, will go on to get some endorsements, maybe find some, sort of like careers that are basic, but the vast majority of these people have had to pay their way through training, and this is not like a thing that's like, well, I'm going to be at my job, but when I get off at 5 p.m., I'm going to go and I'm going to train for 45 minutes. And that's the way I get to the Olympics. No, you need to figure out a way of making money, while you do this. And in the case of at least one athlete, Alicia Newman, although there's others, I think there's actually some guys too who have made money by doing a OnlyFans. And I don't know how explicit her OnlyFans is. It really doesn't make a difference. And here is Tim Pool apparently tuning in, monetizing of her, her win, I guess, or her athletic prowess.
Can I say, like, as a producer of this sort of stuff, like when Megan Thee Stallion is sort of tangentially newsworthy, you do that because one, she's or Cardi B for that instance, the political message is good, and also like sex sells. Tim Pool does it because he hates their politics and wants to make people mad, but also sex sells.
Yeah,
right. I mean, this is this is a long bit of thing, but this is also Tim's opportunity. He knows that he's got like his primary audience is like 15-year-old boys, and part of that is because Tim's not very bright. And, there's a significant amount of 15-year-olds who are just not that, sophisticated. And if they are like Tim, they're probably frustrated about what's happening in terms of like, potential for relationships and the way that women perceive them and whatnot. And he's knee deep into like, I should be considered a high status guy because I have so much money. I'm actually like, bigfooting skateboarders and going and buying their parks and stuff like this. And I have sushi delivered to my compound. And why am I not getting the respect I deserve? And so, but part of that ideology is also to demean women because if they're in any way sexual in a way that he perceives it as being inappropriate.
Showing sexual agency and doing it on their terms. It's threatening to him.
It's
taking ownership over it.
Let's be clear.
Yep.
It's agency, period. And, no more,
But the sexual nature of it creates an anxiety that I think like he wants to exploit.
Because if the Olympics had cheerleaders and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're not going to do cheerleaders anymore for the Olympics.
Why are they so woke?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
From The Telegraph, that's right, OnlyFans Olympic star causing controversy by twerking after she wins and then selling photos of her body.
Pause it. Now, a guy, like someone who is supposedly a libertarian, right? And like, look, the fundamental part about libertarian, it has to do with economics. That's where it was developed. It was developed in Mont Pelerin. They referred to themselves as neoliberals. That's where the libertarian ideology came. The social stuff they sort of added on, so they wouldn't seem like they would seem more common, everyman, and they have some appeal, that social conservatism wouldn't have. If this guy was as libertarian as he said he was, he would be railing on the pearl clutching about this woman twerking.
Right.
Okay. But no, that's not where he's going. Started from the beginning.
From the Telegraph. That's right. OnlyFans Olympic star causing controversy by twerking after she wins and then selling photos of her body.
Disgraceful.
Dude.
What?
Degenerate.
We're looking at, don't keep it up there. We're looking at a photo of her body, incidentally, that the newspaper is
Tim
using
knows.
to sell the story.
That Tim's making money
And
off of.
He's
Yeah.
putting the picture up on his screen.
Yeah, it's not that.
I'm not a fan. But you know what? I'm fairly libertarian. So, lady, Alicia, you want to be a hooker? I got no beef. I'll just call you a hooker and
Why do you
point it
talk
out.
like this?
Now, of course, all of these OnlyFans hookers get real mad when I call them hookers. What's a hooker? When I was growing up, we just referred to women who sold sex in any way as a hooker. It's a slang term. What is a prostitute? Someone who engages in sexual acts for money. Now, by all means, back in the day, when you didn't have TV and magazines and things like that, you had drawings, I guess. But prostitutes
Listen, I got news for you. Back in the day, we had magazines. You did not live in a day where there was no magazines.
Yeah.
And there is not a single person who ever looked at a Playboy and said, look at all the prostitutes.
All the hookers.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. So, I mean, I'm glad he feels very self-righteous in his
Incelness?
ability to call this woman a hooker. I mean, I don't know. Let's keep going.
I call Tim Pool a lot of things too.
Well, yeah, exactly. He's very liberal in his usage of certain words, whether it be hooker or pedophile, and assigning them to people. Perhaps that should be a practice that he looks into. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Or at
the way
least
you
a
can get,
lawyer
you
looks
can
into
get sued
it.
into
Yeah,
prison.
you
Go ahead.
could.
TV and magazines and things like that. You had drawings, I guess. But prostitutes and brothels would perform the act for the men. But not everything they're paid to do is, a woman servicing a guy, right? Or vice versa. What I mean is, there's gigolos. But what I mean is, sometimes guys hire women to do things to other women or themselves. Would you call that prostitution? Yes. Are they hookers? They are. In today's digital day and age, women selling scantily clad photos with the express intention of allowing men to pleasure themselves are hookers. They know what they're doing and why they're doing it. They're asking for money.
We know what Tim's doing with these pictures, I guess. Good.
Themselves are hookers. They know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they're asking for money. Now, in reality, if a woman posed in a bathing suit for Sports Illustrated, that's not a hooker. Like, women are allowed to wear bathing suits. They're allowed to wear whatever they want. This is a woman.
Posit, like, the
an
whole
Olympic
point of the swimsuit issue, I know it's because I was a teenage boy, is selling sex. Yeah, absolutely.
100%! They never even asked these women, do you swim?
Yeah. And
there was never a picture of a single woman in that Sports Illustrated swimsuit thing where she was in water beyond, like, up to maybe her calves.
Yeah. He's really getting theatrical. I don't know why he's talking like this, but it's because he knows that his audience really enjoys him denigrating in his eyes
100%.
this woman who just medaled and is at the top of her field and, like, professionally is like a top athlete. It's the fact that she's on a podium that makes him even more kind of interested in tearing her down by using the word hooker over and over again, which I've just got to, like, interject this little piece of trivia about myself. My dad's side of the family, my aunt's middle name is Hooker because we are descended on that side from General Joe Hooker in the Civil War on the Union side, who originated that term because he had women following around the troops and pleasuring them and taking care of them during that time period. They were called Hooker's girls, right? I've told you this, Matt,
women
right?
following military deployments dominance is a standard thing throughout lots and lots of time, but Hooker was particularly good at organizing the.
So he's like a great uncle.
But the point is, like,
for me.
who cares?
Yeah, I
Even
know.
if we agree with Tim Pool's terminology here, which I don't, I think he's a moron.
Yeah.
Who cares? This Hooker also happens to be an Olympic medalist.
Yes,
Right, but that's
exactly.
the point, right? That's the point. Is
I
they,
mean,
yeah,
listen,
take her down a peg.
If Tim can use Hooker in this way, and again, who cares? I don't care if she's what she's doing, as a way of supporting herself through this. But if Tim can use Hooker in that way, I feel quite comfortable in saying that Tim's a whore, because
Yeah.
he is doing all of this and has always done it for money. And that has been the central thing. And I know somebody who was at Tim's house, who was friends with Tim, or at least friendly enough to get invited to his compound, wherever it was in New Jersey or wherever it was, years ago. And Tim explicitly said, it's great. I don't have to read anything, and I can just make a ton of money.
You don't even need to go out on the street during protests anymore. He just sits and talks about people shaking their ass.
And in my mind, that is what a whore is.
Right.
And
Attention
frankly, who he calls as a hooker is doing far less damage to the world and to society than the whoring that I think that Tim is doing here.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Like, women are allowed to wear bathing suits. They're allowed to wear whatever they want.
Well, thank you.
This is a woman, an Olympic athlete, who
But she's not allowed to do what I say next. Go ahead.
This is a woman, an Olympic athlete, who twerked and laughed and enjoyed it. And she sells photos of her body in suggestive poses for money. Now, I don't know exactly how much she makes. I think they estimate that she may be making, it depends. They say there's 65,000 likes on her profile. The question is, will you get more likes than subscribers? So maybe she has 10% of that.
Pause
Maybe
it for a
she's
second.
getting
Let
around.
me this analysis reinforces what I mean when I say that Tim is a whore, because the only thing he cares about with this stuff is those type of metrics.
Bottom line.
Exactly. Go ahead.
subscribers. So maybe she has 10% of that. Maybe she's getting around $30,000 to $40,000 a month by posting scantily clad photos of her body to pleasure men. I call that being a hooker. Here's the story.
Okay.
Telegraph only.
He just reads it. Is there any more after this?
He has a deep insecurity as it relates to women having
without a doubt.
having emotions that he's not like an agency, I guess, where he's not primarily in control of the entire situation, and he exploits that anxiety in his audience. And that's what's so despicable about it, is because like there is, I think, an audience for this, and they're usually young men who are really vulnerable at this point, and he turns it into like this kind of misogynistic stew.
I would say, like, I think this insecurity is greater than just with women, although I think it's more sort of like it cuts deeper. I mean, you don't go after they tell you we don't want your $20,000 at this skate park, leave us alone. You don't go and buy that unless you are deeply sensitive to the fact that people don't want to be around you. Part of the reason why he's going to build this sort of like, Michael Jackson Neverland or wherever he's at is because he's literally buying his friends. Everybody who hangs there, they're all on the payroll. It's if he wasn't doing so much sort of damage and putting out so much garbage, you'd almost feel sad for the guy.
Almost.
A lot of stories are about, like even just sort of like basic sort of like, fairy tale stories are about like, a wealthy person who is completely isolated in his own mind or their own mind and needs to buy friends. And that's what's going on here. I mean, I wonder if he has anyone who he doesn't, who's never been on his show or doesn't come on his show because they need the promotion, or that he pays, that is friends with him. I would suspect no.
I have a new list of hookers according to the Tim Pool Incel Style Guide. This is from 2014, the ESPN Body issue. Michael Phelps, congratulations. You are a hooker for posing naked. Venus Williams, Marshawn Lynch, Prince Fielder, Jamie Anderson, and Serge Ibaka, all hookers according to Tim
Barkley
Pool.
did that too, yeah.
Look, I mean, just hookers, and hookers.
There are men with OnlyFans, right? Does he do
course.
segments over and over and over and over again, calling them hookers or
He calls
whores
them
or sluts?
gigolos.
Of course, you got J-Lo.
There's a little more that we could play at this.
Yeah, let's
before
play a
we
little
move
bit.
The 30-year-old's earnings are expected to soar after her success in Paris. That's called being a hooker.
It's called capitalism.
But social media users were divided on her celebration, with many accusing her of attention-seeking, while others defended her celebration as enjoying a historic moment. Newman from Delaware, Ontario, and Canada cleared the same height as rival Katie Moon, but the American missed fewer attempts to land silver.
Okay.
The American missed fewer attempts? What is that? I think they worded that wrong. Here's her doing that pole vault. And you know what? I can respect that she's a great athlete and she did this, but I do not respect that she is selling sex at the Olympics to make money, and she makes way more money doing that.
All right, can you just
A host
pause
of
it?
athletes have
Because, or I think that's really it. But like just think for a sec, Tim. Why does she have to be? Why is she in this position? Like we alluded, Sam mentioned it at the beginning. These athletes have to self-fund and are in this immensely precarious financial position to achieve their dream, where they rely on wealthy sponsorships and scholarships and things like that, where they have to go out and ask basically wealthy benefactors to fund them to get to their ultimate goal. And then to make extra money and be able to live, this Olympic athlete has to, or maybe she just chooses to, whatever the case may be. We know that that Olympic athletes don't get paid enough. Like,
that's the only problem, is if it's involuntary and it's like an avenue towards money, right?
Right.
That's where we care about this.
exactly. And if you were a serious person, you would analyze like, okay, maybe she wants to do this, maybe she doesn't want to do this, but overall, why is there this systemic failing of our athletes that they have to do this? That's a question that a serious person would engage in, except for the fact that he's not a serious person. He just wants his young incel audience to get off on him tearing this woman down.
And let's be clear, we have a society that does not give you the opportunity to have the basic things that you need. So the opportunity to do pursuits that aren't necessarily going to pay off is inhibited by having insecurity when it comes to your health care, having insecurity when it comes to your housing, having insecurity when it comes to maybe your retirement. I mean, some basic fundamental needs and necessities of our society. Other societies meet those. Certainly, everyone that is as wealthy as ours does. And when you don't have that ability, it curtails your ability to choose sort of paths that may not pay off as money. I mean, regardless of whether she wins a
medal,
somebody wins a medal or not. There's not gonna be a huge amount of endorsement deals you're gonna get from doing pole vaulting.
yeah.
But the bottom line is where did Tim Pool become the moral arbiter
That's
of
the
what
point.
women are allowed? She's allowed to wear a bathing suit.
Tim Pool telling you what he does and does not
allowed.
respect. Who cares? Who are you? You wear the same hat because you're really insecure. No one should give a shit. If you're a young man and you are taking cues about what and what not to respect from Tim Pool, you are lost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can do better. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.